You ever feel invisible in your own home? Not because anyone says it out loud, but because no one really looks at you anymore? That's how it started. It was just another Saturday. My husband had his friends over again, Mark, Jordan, Teo. They laughed, ate, joked like they always did. And I did what I always do, made sure there was food, drinks, clean cups, and space for them to unwind. But that day felt different. I caught a glance. Not long, not obvious, but it lingered. Like it knew something I didn't want to admit. And then another glance. A smile that hovered. Eyes that didn't go back to the TV quick enough. They weren't looking at him. They were looking at me. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was disappearing. I didn't feel like the tired wife, cleaning up empty plates. I felt seen. Not in a flattering way. Not in a disrespectful way. Just seen. And that did something to me. Because when your husband stops noticing, when the little compliments fade, when touch becomes routine, a simple look from someone else, it feels like breath. I didn't ask for it. I didn't encourage it. But I noticed it, and I didn't forget it. And that's where everything started to shift. Not with a kiss. Not with a touch. But with a look. A look that made me question how lonely I'd really been. And whether anyone had noticed. Subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold, where the stories we tell don't ask for judgment, just understanding. I'm 32. Been married 8 years. Lived in the same house almost as long. It's a decent place, 2 stories, quiet street, neighbors who smile but mind their business. The kind of home you'd pass by and think, that's a happy little life. And maybe, once, it was. But lately, it just feels like a shell. Clean on the outside. Hollow on the inside. My husband, Daniel, he works long hours. Finance. Always something to crunch, something to submit, someone to please. He used to come home with energy. Now he just comes home with silence. A kiss on the cheek. A muttered hey. Then straight to the laptop or the TV. Sometimes both. We used to talk. About everything. Now even how was your day feels forced. Like we're reading from a script neither of us remembers writing. I don't think he's unkind. He's just tired. Detached. Somewhere else even when he's right in front of me. And I've tried. God knows I've tried. New dresses. New recipes. Asking about his meetings, his clients, even his fantasy football scores. But I get half smiles. Nods. As if I'm background noise. Comfortable. Predictable. Forgettable. And then there are the hangouts. His friends still come around every other weekend. Mark, the loud one, always cracking jokes. Jordan, the quiet one with a stare that feels like it reads more than he says. And Teo, charming, polite, and too observant for his own good. They've known us since the beginning. They were there when Daniel proposed. Sat at our table on the wedding day. Watched us dance our first dance. And maybe that's what makes it worse. Because lately, when they're over laughing too loud, slapping Daniel on the back, teasing each other about old girlfriends and bad decisions, I've noticed something new. The way their eyes sometimes linger. Not long, not obvious, but just enough. Like they're remembering something or imagining something. At first, I thought it was in my head. I mean, I'm not 20 anymore. I've had 2 kids. I live in sweatpants more than heels. Why would anyone look at me like that? But it kept happening. Small moments. Catching Mark staring while I wiped the counter. Jordan watching me tie my hair up. Teo asking me if I've been working out, with that half smile like he already knew the answer. And I know what it sounds like. I do. But you don't understand what it does to someone. To feel seen after being invisible for so long. They laughed loudly, joked freely, and sometimes looked at me too long. At first, I told myself I was imagining it. But deep down, I wasn't sure I wanted it to stop. It was a Sunday. Warm, bright, the kind of afternoon that smells like sunscreen, grilled meat, and watered grass. Daniel wanted to host a barbecue, something casual. A few friends. Some ribs. Cold drinks. He said it like a favor to me. But by noon, he was already inside. Beer in hand, eyes glued to the game, calling out scores to no one in particular. So I set everything up. Chairs by the pool. Plates, cups, napkins weighted down with stones so they wouldn't fly away in the breeze. I chose a sundress, light yellow, modest, nothing dramatic. It wasn't new, but it clung a little differently in the heat. The boys arrived not long after. Mark with his booming voice. Jordan, always observing. Teo, grinning like he owned the air around him. They greeted Daniel, tossed a few jokes his way, then drifted outside, where I was stacking ice into the cooler. Mark called out, "Need help with the drinks?" I smiled, nodded. Sure. They followed me into the kitchen, one after the other. The house felt smaller with them inside. Like the air shifted. As I handed Jordan a tray of sodas, I heard it. Low. Close. He's lucky, someone whispered. Then a soft laugh behind it. I froze. The words, they weren't crude. They weren't loud. But they sank deep. He's lucky. Lucky to have me? Lucky that I didn't say anything? Lucky they hadn't tried more? I didn't turn around. I didn't ask who said it. Didn't scold. Didn't smile. I just stood there, pretending not to hear it. But I heard it. And the worst part? I didn't hate the way it made me feel. It was harmless. A compliment. That's what I told myself. But as we carried the drinks back outside, and I felt their eyes follow me not one at a time, but all at once, I knew something had shifted. In them. In me. In the space between us. That line. The one you swear you'll never cross? It doesn't come with warning signs. It comes with whispers. Smiles. A dress that fits just right on the wrong day. And from that moment, I couldn't stop wondering, was I still a wife? Or just a secret waiting to happen? That night, I couldn't sleep. The house was quiet. Daniel snored softly beside me, his back turned, as usual. One arm stretched across the bed, but not toward me. Just away. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, hearing those two words over and over again. He's lucky. I don't know why they stuck. It wasn't the first time I'd been complimented. Not even the boldest thing I've ever heard. But maybe it was the first time in a long time that it actually landed. Like it had somewhere to go. Was it wrong to feel flattered? Was it wrong to want to feel flattered? I turned onto my side, facing Daniel. His mouth was slightly open, breathing steady. His hand twitched a little, like he was dreaming. I wondered, what about work? Numbers? Did I show up in those dreams anymore? When did he last even look at me like that? Like the way Mark did. Or Jordan. Or Teo. It wasn't about wanting them. It wasn't lust. It wasn't some secret desire to betray him. It was just, I missed being wanted. Not for chores. Not for errands. Not for dinner or dry cleaning or the kids' school forms. I missed being seen. The next morning, I caught myself in the mirror while brushing my teeth. I stood a little longer than usual, tilted my chin, turned slightly. Had my hips always curved like that? Was my smile always this tired? I opened my drawer and swapped my usual hoodie for a fitted top. Didn't think too hard about it. Didn't plan it. Just slipped it on. Not for them. Or so I told myself. But that week, I started checking my reflection more. Touching up my lip gloss before heading into the kitchen. Adding a spray of perfume before making lunch. Standing just a little taller when I heard their voices coming up the driveway. And each time I did, a part of me whispered, "You're not chasing anything. You just want to feel alive again." Because there's a special kind of grief that comes from being forgotten while still being held. Daniel didn't do anything wrong. He didn't hurt me, didn't scream, didn't cheat. He just stopped seeing me. And when someone else does, even for a second, that second can feel like oxygen to a woman slowly drowning in her own home. I wasn't chasing anything. I wasn't trying to start a fire. But I can't lie and say the spark didn't feel good. Didn't feel like me. The version of me I used to know. The one who used to turn heads, not just serve plates. The one who used to laugh without lowering her voice. The one who used to feel wanted without feeling guilty for it. And I think that's where the real confusion started. Because if being seen feels wrong, why does it feel so much like home? It started small. A ping on my phone late one night. I was lying in bed, Daniel beside me, already asleep, mouth slightly open, remote still in his hand. The TV flickered blue light across the room. I turned over, checked the screen. Instagram. A message request. From Mark. Just 5 words, "You looked amazing yesterday." No emoji. No punctuation. Just that. My thumb hovered over the screen. I didn't open it. Didn't respond. But I didn't delete it either. I told myself it was harmless. A compliment, again. Just words. Just one of his friends, being friendly. But the next day, I found myself checking his profile, wondering if he was thinking of me when he posted that playlist to his story, reading into things I never used to notice. And then came the night Daniel fell asleep on the couch again. The game had ended. He'd snored softly, half a beer left warm on the table. Mark was still there, sitting in the armchair. The only light was from the TV. I came in to grab a plate. Our eyes met. He didn't flinch, didn't shift, didn't pretend to look away. He held it, and I felt something in me lock up, like a secret tightening its grip. I didn't smile, didn't frown. I just stood there, letting the silence stretch too long. Then I turned and walked out, quickly, but my heart didn't slow down for hours. The next hangout, I wore the yellow sundress again. The one from the barbecue. The one I hadn't worn in years until that day. Daniel didn't notice. He kissed me on the cheek, said, "Did we get enough charcoal?" That was it. But they noticed. I felt it the second I stepped outside. The pause. The way Mark's laugh cut short. The way Jordan blinked twice before looking down. The way Teo muttered something and then cleared his throat. Their eyes burned through me. And I hated it. I hated how aware I was of every step I took. Every movement. Every glance they threw my way when they thought Daniel wasn't looking. But I craved it too. I craved it like someone who's been starved craves anything with taste. That night, I couldn't eat much. My stomach was too tight, too full of guilt, and something else I didn't have a name for. I helped clean up, loaded dishes, laughed at the right jokes. But I felt their eyes. I felt the air shift every time I passed by, every time I bent slightly to pick something up. And then, they asked. Not with words. No one said it out loud. But in the way Jordan lingered by the sink a second too long. In the way Mark brushed my hand when he passed me the plates. In the way Teo stood at the door a beat later than he needed to. They didn't need to say it. The question was there. Would I? Could I? And, for the first time, I didn't know what my answer would be. Daniel had a conference out of town. 2 nights. A hotel booked by his company. He left early Friday morning with a suitcase, a quick peck on my cheek, and a distracted, "I'll call you later." He didn't. That night, the house felt too quiet. Too still. I lit a candle. Poured a glass of wine. Put on a playlist I hadn't listened to in years, slow, sultry songs that used to make me feel something. And then the knock came. It was Mark. Then Jordan. Then Teo. "Just checking in," they said. Smiling, casual, easy. I should have said no. I should have made an excuse. But I didn't. They came in. I poured more wine. We sat on the patio, the same one Daniel never uses. Laughter floated between us, but underneath it, something else hummed. Tension. Curiosity. Electricity no one wanted to name. The music was low, steady. A song came on slow, rhythmic, familiar. I stood, half tipsy, half lost, and began to sway. Not for anyone. Not for attention. Just for myself. But I felt it. Their eyes. They didn't hide it anymore. Didn't glance away. They watched. And I didn't stop dancing. My head tilted back. The night breeze moved through my hair. I laughed softly, almost forgetting where I was, or who I was supposed to be. Then I heard it. If he doesn't see you, why should you be the one waiting? The words slid through the air like a dare. I paused. The wine glass still in my hand. My heart pounding louder than the music. I walked away. To the kitchen. Didn't say a word. Just stepped inside and leaned against the counter. I could have told them to leave. I could have ended the night right there. But I didn't. I stood in the glow of the fridge light, breathing, listening, and then, footsteps. Not hurried, not hesitant, just certain. He came in slowly, stopped a few feet from me. No words. The silence between us buzzed louder than any sound. He looked at me. Not like Daniel. Not like a husband distracted by spreadsheets and deadlines. He looked at me like I was something to be remembered. And then, his hand touched my wrist. Soft, warm, intentional. I didn't pull away. For a second, everything slowed down. The candlelight flickered. The music faded. Time stood still. Nothing more happened. No kiss. No whispered promises. No betrayal in the physical sense. But in that touch, in that look, something broke. It didn't go further than that. But it went far enough to never forget. After that night, everything looked the same. But nothing felt the same. I cleaned the kitchen like I always did. Washed the glasses. Wiped the counters. Took out the trash. But my hands were trembling. I kept thinking it was just a touch. Nothing more. No one saw. No one knew. So why did it feel like something inside me had unraveled? The next weekend, Daniel invited them over again. Said it without looking up from his phone. Guys are coming by Saturday. You good with that? I nodded. But Saturday came, and I couldn't do it. I stayed upstairs. Said I had a headache. Turned off the lights in our room. Listened to their voices through the floorboards. The laughter. The clinking of bottles. The scrape of chairs against the patio. I couldn't face them. Any of them. Not Mark. Not Jordan. Not Teo. Especially not the one who touched my wrist like he was trying to remember what warmth felt like. I thought hiding would help. Thought the shame would pass. But it clung to me, quiet and invisible. Daniel knocked gently on the door at some point. You okay? He asked. I paused before answering. Just long enough for my voice to sound even. Yeah, I lied. Just tired. He didn't press. But after that, something in him shifted too. He didn't ask again. Didn't check. Just stopped noticing altogether. I was sitting on the couch a few days later, flipping through a book I hadn't touched in months, one I kept on the shelf in the corner of the living room. And there it was. Tucked between the pages. A folded piece of paper. I opened it. Still the most beautiful thing he'll never see. No name. No handwriting I could swear by. But I knew. My chest tightened. My fingers shook. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just walked to the sink, lit a match, and held the edge of the note to the flame. Watched it curl, darken, disappear. But the words stayed. Not on the paper. Not in the room. Inside me. Daniel never found out. Never asked. But he became colder. More distant. Like something between us had died, and neither of us wanted to look at the body. He stopped touching me. Stopped kissing me goodnight. Stopped asking if I was okay. And I stopped volunteering the truth. I thought nothing happened. But everything changed. It wasn't about them. It never really was. It was about what I became when I stopped being seen. When I stopped being touched with intention. When words stopped feeling warm. When my presence became routine. Like a lamp in the corner, always there, always on, but no one really noticing the light. I used to think affairs happened in hotel rooms, behind closed doors, with lipstick stains and lies. But now, I know they happen in glances, in unspoken thoughts, in the space between what you say and what you really feel. I didn't cheat. Not in the way people define it. But something in me wandered. Not because I was reckless. Not because I wanted to hurt anyone. But because I was hungry. Hungry for something I couldn't name. Connection. Touch. A moment that reminded me I still mattered. I started asking myself questions I wasn't ready to answer. What is a marriage supposed to feel like after 8 years? Is this it? Quiet dinners. Separate screens. I love you said more out of habit than heat? Is this how people slip away? Not with shouting. Not with slammed doors. Just silence? We're taught to fear betrayal of the body. But no one warns you about the betrayal of forgetting. Of being forgotten. The ache of emotional infidelity. It lingers. It stains. It's the kind of ache you can't confess because there's nothing to confess. No evidence. Just memories of being looked at like you were something worth pausing for. And I kept asking myself, what kind of woman does that make me? What does it say about me that I wanted to be wanted? I didn't want a new life. I didn't want someone else's last name. I didn't want a scandal. I just wanted to feel like I still existed. Like I could still stop time for someone. Even if just for a second. I wanted to be desired. But I didn't want to be disposable. And maybe that's the hardest part. Realizing that even though you stayed, some part of you still left. Have you ever crossed a line, not because you were cruel, but because you were empty? Not out of desire, but out of absence? When something in you felt so forgotten, so untouched, that even a flicker of attention felt like rescue. I didn't set out to betray anyone. I didn't wake up wanting to hurt him, but the truth is, sometimes you don't run toward someone else. You just stop trying to hold together the space between you and the person who stopped noticing. Would I have stopped it if someone had seen me first? Touched my hand differently? Said my name like it mattered? Would I take it back if I knew the ache wouldn't go away just because I stayed quiet? I don't know. But I do know this, if you've ever felt that ache, the one you can't name. The kind that hides in your chest when everyone thinks you're fine. Drop your truth in the comments. No judgment. No shame. Just release it. And if this story stirred something in you, if it made you remember a version of yourself you thought was long gone, subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold. The next one might feel even closer to home. Every day I fold laundry in silence. His shirt is still here. The one with the faint smell of cedar and aftershave. I haven't had the courage to throw it away. My husband still smiles at me, just not with his eyes. And my daughter? She draws pictures of families. Little stick figures holding hands. But in every drawing, there's always one standing just outside the circle. That's me. Some people break vows with their bodies. I broke mine with my silence. I stayed. But not all of me did. May you never ache to be seen by eyes that do not love you.